Hi everyone. Right, so continuing with this handle and the different configurations, I've fixed up this first configuration somewhat. It's still not perfect. You can see there's a rather a nasty transition between that curve there in relation to the top curve. So just to show you why fully defined sketches are such a thing, are so brilliant, is now that I've got that in there. If I want to increase this incrementally, I can just use the scroll button. But if I want to do that by millimeters, I can hold the Alt button down and then I can increase it like that. See what happens. See if that suits me. Okay, so maybe not. Maybe it needs to be quite a bit more. Right, so that's pretty much how I fixed most of this this handle up, is just by playing with bits and pieces like this, seeing what I can do to make it more suitable. So this one, for instance, should be maybe 0.5. That's not going to make much difference, but this one might. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, but I think you get the idea. There you go, that's going in the right direction. Okay, so I'm not going to play with this anymore at the moment. I can fix it up later. Let's have a look at the other configuration. This is my second configuration. This first one's looking a little bit weak. It needs to be chunkier. Right, so that one's a whole lot chunkier. And what I've done is, just to shortcut things, I've filled the configuration in. So I'll just backtrack somewhat just to quickly show you what I've done. Right, so there's my basic idea, although without the chamfer. Right, so you don't need to add the chamfers in. I'm just showing you how those chamfers can work. These are going in the opposite direction to the first configuration, so they're sort of wider at the they're longer side to side, and they're narrower at the back. So if I click on this, you can see 1525, whereas the other one were the other way around. Right, so then I've added a draft, and I've made this draft a bit less than on the other one, so that's only 1 degree. Then I did a cut extrude, which is the same as in the other one. I've taken that sketch. In fact, what I did is I borrowed the sketch from the original, which I'll show you in a moment. Right, so then I added some fillets in, some large fillets. All right, so those are the interior ones. In fact, this is interesting. Let's just have a look. I'm going to clear this selection. And if I select one like that, okay, one of the interesting things is that you can select this very last one, all concave edges, which in this case would suit me. In other words, all the inside edges or all the outside edges. So that's what I want. Right, and then I've added these rounding off fillets, which, just to remind you, involves picking 3 faces. So 1, 2, 3. So I can just delete them just to show you how that works. So pick a face, pick the next face, and then pick the last face, and it'll round it off for you as a complete round. So the next 4 fillets, or the next 3 at least, are just that. Rounded those off. And then I've put a cut extrude, so that's a triangle. That sketch is on the top plane. All my sketches, as you'll see, are, as I've said before, using the primary planes as much as I can. So you'll see no extra planes in here, so that my design tree is as limited as it can be, so that it's easier to navigate. I don't have to find my way around hundreds of planes and sketches. Right, this extrude cut is drafting outwards, because that's the way this would. So that's outwards, well, that's inwards at the top, and that's also inwards at the top, even though it's drafting outwards from the bottom. So I'm going to exit that sketch. All right, so there's the basic sort of triangle cut out. And then I put a fillet in there. And then I've put a chamfer all around the edge, and this chamfer kind of is the opposite of the chamfer around the edge on the other one, in that it's got it's taller than it is short. So let's just have a look here. So you'll see there it's three from side to side, and it's 6 tall. All right, so this has got a different feel to it in many ways to the first handle, and that's the point. There's just to have a look at how you can get these different variations, different configurations out of the same basic geometry, and then you can easily compare them. Okay, so let's go and borrow that bottom sketch. What I've done here is I've dropped in my 2 profiles into a folder. That's just to get my design tree to be shorter if I can. In this case in particular, because I'm running out of space, I'm going to have to enlarge this. And I know my screen recorder is only recording this small bit so that you can see more, so that you don't have a huge screen, and so that everything's a bit larger on your smaller screens. Right, so on the lower profile, I can still access these bits and pieces, and I can click on that sketch and I can say Control-C. So I've actually copied that sketch, and let's go to the bottom of this item, and wait, let's scroll to the top and go to the front plane, put a sketch in, and if I say Control-V, it'll drop that sketch in. And then the beauty of this is I can move those entities because they're already selected, and because I put in a center line, I know that center line just needs to line up with my origin point. So the unfortunate thing here is that I have to re-establish dimensions. It's the only bit that's not so nice. So if this isn't going black, there we go, just connect it. It seems it needs to be made vertical. Nope, still not. There we go. Okay. Right, so now I can, I know that these 2 here, so what is nice is it's brought some relationships through. I'm going to make these 2 lines horizontal, so that this curve meets, one curve meets the other, or one spline meets the other at a tangent. And then I can just put in a few dimensions. Right, and here's a neat trick. Here's once you put in let's start that again. Once you put in 1 dimension to a line and you drag it across and you say OK, the next one will automatically you don't have to click on that point. How neat is that? Right? So you can just keep going, and Solidworks figures out what you're trying to do and just puts the dimensions in across the center line for you. Right, and then I want to put in the heights, so that's going to be 1 height. That'll be another one. So this isn't as interactive, but it's still, I mean, it's not actually a lot of work. So you've got to be careful there. Nope. I want that vertical dimension. I'm going to bump that up to 1 right now. And then I want that line and that plane, that one and that one, to be collinear. Right, it doesn't like that because of some other relationship, which is what? Maybe if I drag this down, get that to be coincident, and I think it is, this dimension needs to be larger. So let's just type in 200, see what happens. Yeah, there's not enough space for it to become collinear, because if it's collinear, it's going to be, there we go, so the same problem. So I'm going to actually delete this dimension because that is the problem. There's a conflict. There we go. Okay, so because that line had to be collinear, and because this point is tangent, that relation and that dimension were fighting with each other, and I needed to decide which one was more important. I'm happy with this as it stands, as far as dimensioning goes, but let's just see. There we go. That's looking more pleasing. And I'm going to use the Alt button here to get that to go incrementally. Something like that. Right, so I've got a sketch. It's in the middle. I need to just find that sketch. There it is there. And I can say extrude cut. Make sure that you are, first of all, through all both, but also make sure that the arrow is pointing down, because it's the underside that we want to cut out of here. Okay. Right. I think then all we need to do is to hollow this out and then put in those bosses. So the boss bit is a little bit tricky. I'm going to show you the simple method, but just let me show you what I've done in config 1. So you can see here the boss needs to come below the level of the split line. That requires a little bit more engineering, which I'm not going to require you to do. So if for this exercise you just got the boss to come to the same level, that would be fine. So all we want to do is put some sketches of the circles in there. So I'm going to go back to my top plane, and I'm going to put a center line, because that's what I want to draw just once. Right, so here I'm not going to be able to pick up a center relationship with anything, because the way in which this has been cut, that's not a circle anymore geometrically. It might look like one, but it actually isn't. So let's make that about 14. I think that's fine. And then we need to control it just by adding in some controlling dimensions, 15 and 15, and hopefully I can show you a neat trick here. So I can type in 15, that's fine, and I can see what happens. All right, but I know that I want both of those to be exactly the same, and I don't want to have to repeatedly click on each one to change them. Okay, so what you can do is double click on one of them, any one, and then in this dialog box you can just type in the equal sign and then select the other dimension. Okay, now you can see that these two are connected using a formula, which means if I change this one to 16, for instance, and I update it, they'll both update. 16, there we go. Right, so that should save you a lot of time. So maybe this should be a little bit, a touch smaller. There we go. That's probably just not quite right, but let's leave it for now. And then we're going to mirror it. So mirror, not that one. This one here. Say yes. Select these two. Mirror. Okay. If anyone finds a shortcut for going to the second bar, tell me what it is. I still haven't found it. It's very annoying to have to go across. I like to do everything from the center. Okay, so there's my sketch. It's in place. It's fully defined. I'm not going to be able to get to this. Oh, I will. Okay, so there's my sketch. Now, you can see it's not on a plane that allows me to cut from the top, but that's not a problem at all. You probably know this already, but let me just remind you. So I'm going to say extruded cut, and I don't want, as you can see, I don't want it to cut from the sketch plane. I want it to cut from a surface. That's this surface here. And then if we had a boss, we could actually get it to offset from surface. So let's just do that as an exercise. So it's at 1.5. So it's going to ask which surface do you want it to cut to, and that'll be that one there. And let's give it a taper as well of 1 degree, and just make sure that we're taping in the right direction. Are we? I think so. Let's see what happens. Okay, so you'll see that that's cut to within 1.5. If I slice through this like that, you can see if we were to measure this, between there and there would be 1.5. Right, that's not actually what I want to do, so I'm going to go back into this cut and alter it, and in fact we're just going to say through all. So now it's a hole, which will mean, in fact, maybe that is what I want to do. Nope, that is what I want to do. Right, that is exactly what I want to do, because now I want to shell this, and I'm going to select these faces. A 1.7 is good. Let's hope it shells. There we go. It's shelled and it's left this in place. Okay. And then the rest is just a matter of adding some fillets in there and cutting some holes. But if you get as far as this on this exercise, just having 2 configurations with these mounting bosses, don't worry about the holes for now. 2 different shapes. That's all I'm asking you to do. Thanks for watching. Cheers.